What's going on, guys? This is Damien from the Lookout, and I am here with Peter Dance, the King of Invoker, who just won the first regionals in 2024, playing Janemba Mill. Peter,
Janemba.
why you not play Invoker?
Good question. Ultimately, it's not good enough. Sadly, I did actually test it for this event. So I did actually it was a consideration. I had three in my mind: OG Invoker, U7, Goku, and Janemba. And I was testing Invoker, and I just didn't like the matchups. I think it's got a fine matchup against U7, but I don't know. I wasn't too sold on it. I didn't want to play mirror matches all day, so I just thought, you know what? I love Janemba. Let's just play Janemba.
Awesome. So you finally won the first three. You won the first regionals. That's what I wanted to say. Too bad that they didn't have the Invoker leader.
Yeah, I mean, they had obviously the Vegeta Gold leader, which was still nice. But yeah, I would have obviously preferred the OG Invoker, because obviously that's for my deck. And the last obviously time we had it, I came I think it was like third or fourth with Frieza, I think it was. Or I got close. I got close, but didn't quite take it. So at least it was nice to take this one, and obviously with it being a real life event, obviously that was great as well.
Awesome. So Peter, it's your time to do a deck profile here for the Lookout. So take us through one of the most hated decks in the game.
Sure. So we'll just talk about the Unison package first of all, and for anyone that before I get into that, for anyone that's completely forgot what Janemba does, it's a mill deck. So it's a mill strategy, and it's built on obviously surviving as long as possible while milling. The mill mostly comes from your leader. He's a simple swing. You draw a card and mill your opponent 2 cards. So everything you see here will be, just to find ways to survive as long as possible, and a few extra little mill cards. So with the Unison package, we start with Majin Buu, Agent of Destruction. This is obviously it's limited to 1 for a reason. To be honest, the only time I tend to play this is if I'm able to stay unawakened till turn 4, because then when you drop this, you awaken, you untap 2. And then this untaps your 1, so you go into your opponent's turn with 3 energy open. If I've had to awaken super early, then I don't tend to play this particular card. It might just be a charge, but it just depends, because again, you don't want to pay for tap out unless you've got enough beans, maybe. And then the other one is also part of your win condition, which is the Wicked Agent of Destruction, Janemba. I have now and again killed people with this card, and we'll talk about that in a second, because its main use is it's +0. So you and your opponent draw a card, and then your opponent mills a card. So it's basically like your leader. It's a -2 from your opponent's deck. The +1 I've never done, which is just a +1. It gets crit. I could imagine I would use it against decks like Hatch, for example, or Vegex if it was still around, but ultimately it doesn't get used. And then the -2 does actually kick in sometimes. So it's an activate main or battle, which is the key thing there. It's a -2, which is not costly at all. You can just pay 3 for this, and I did that over the weekend to win one of my games. And I've also done it against shout out to Ollie. I've done it to him when he was playing AOD to kill him as well. Back in another event. But basically, if your opponent's got 15 or less cards in his deck, which he will do, this card gets 15k in triple strike. So you pay 3, you swing just -2, and then he's 30 triple before you even start comboing. And if they're at 3 life because they've been taking their own life, thinking you won't kill them, it's a great way. And again, a lot of people forget about this ability, and it's so strong, right? So But that's the Unison package. So there's no other Unisons I would mess around with. But and then I feel like because Nimbus is one of the best cards in the game in the meta currently, I've had to go multicolored Janemba, which is the blue-yellow. Now I do prefer mono blue Janemba. However, in this meta, I feel like you have to play blue-yellow. I don't think you've got much of a choice here. So there's only 2 actual multicolored cards in the deck, and obviously a 4 each of both. So you've got Beerus, which is pretty much there just as a check land. It's a perfect sort of charge. And then Zamasu has 2 aspects where, again, it can act as a check land, but it's also got a nice little counterplay ability as well, where, obviously it adds the 4 cost or less back to their hand. And then you can also rest another battle card and draw a card as well. So on play. And because it's indestructible, unless you're against red, pretty much it's going to stay on the field, which also means you can pay 1 and combo away as well, and then Z-charge it, for example. So Zamasu is a very good card. You don't use it too often because, believe it or not, 2 energy is quite expensive still against certain decks. But it does come in handy quite a lot, and if anything else, it's a check land. So yeah, for any of those reasons, or discard target for Nimbus, because that's the thing with Nimbus, you need obviously a yellow card to discard. So if you've got too many of these, you can do that or bottom deck them. Now, just to go into the supporting mill cards, so there's 2 here. There's Reality Bender and there's Bojack. So just talking about Bojack first of all, I mean, this is great. It's a negate, and then it mills 1 on play. So obviously when you've got the blue multicolored in your energy, it's only a 1 cost to play. The 10k is irrelevant, but you just negate the attack, make them mill 1, and then convert away on an attack, or when they've attacked you with something else. But it's just fantastic. It's just an extra mill. So with 4 copies of that obviously can mill for 4 as well. And then the other one is Reality Bender. So I used to play this at 4, but it's kind of dropping off, because the thing is, when you're against yellow, they have Sin, so they can blanket. And if you're against red, they've got the Gohan counterplay, so they can kill it with that. So there's a lot more answers to this card now. So a lot of the time, this tends to be a charge target or just a simple combo. But if you can pull it off, basically in a nutshell, if your opponent's got 4 more energy and you've got no battle cards, which you don't have battle cards, you combo them all away or they die. This is just a 1 cost, and it's got deflect, so no normal counterplays work against it. And then basically at the end of the turn, you just bottom deck it and your opponent mills 2. And I will say the idea of the strategy is you want to attack the leader as little as possible, because there's if you can keep them at 6 life, if you think about it as well, it's like, and this is why you don't attack with cards like this as well, because if you keep them at 6 life or 5 life or whatever, their super combos are not live most of the time, which also means it's less threatening when they're attacking you as well, because your super combos will be live and theirs won't. So whenever my tip to anyone that's also learning Janemba is you pretty much want to attack everything but the leader if you can, like with your leader, for example. And then you just do the same. So if they've got a couple of 15k battle cards in rest, swing at it with your Unison. Force them to combo a card away or something like that. Because if the less cards they have in their hand, the less cards they're going to use offensively when they're attacking you. And they're also then forced to draw more cards in order to put more pressure on, which again just acts towards your game plan as well. So like with Reality Bender, that'll be the last thing I play that turn. And then I literally play it and pass it, bottom deck it, mill 2. So just bear that in mind when you're playing Janemba as well. So we're just going to go into our combo package here. So this is all the stuff that's going to keep us live, because again, the deck is just literally built to survive. So you've got 4 of the Vegeta super combos, because of course, there is some 10Ks and some clunky things in your hand. So the draw 2 is much better than, say, a Sparking or something like that. You really need the draw 2 to filter through your deck as well. And then you've got the Villainy Cell and the Unbreakable as well. So these are quite staples in the mono blue version, and I wanted to bring them over to the multicolored as well because, again, yes, you do have a lot of negates, but also past that, like let's say I Nimbus you, then I might not want to negate the other attacks, so I can then use Sal and Unbreakable to get 10k combo and draw cards. So again, I'm not losing cards here, and that's the thing. It's like with these, you swing at me, 20k, let's say. Okay, I just combo one of these. I come out of it. You've only got one more attack or whatever left. So again, there's some interactions, and again, you can do the same with Bean. If you've only got one energy up, you can Bean your leader. You're now 20 base, combo a Sal, and then all of a sudden you're 30, and you've lost only one card in your hand because of the use of Bean, and you've still got the same energy. So there's a lot of interactions there, and again, the same goes for Realm of the Gods as well. Again, as you can see, a lot of these cards, a lot of these combo cards, are just replacing themselves. So, like with Realm of the Gods, it's a 10k draw card. Sometimes I will use it on my turn if there's a real big threat I'm worried about. But generally speaking, you'll be using this mostly during your opponent's turn. And the bottom decking a battle card, sometimes you want to do that as well. Mostly, obviously, on Z battle cards because they won't go back in the deck, obviously. But there is some threats, like when I was against SS4 Bardock, for example. This is obviously gets rid of a lot of their cards. So if they swing with the one that lets them swap, for example, I'll 100% be bottom decking that card because that's such an important aggressive tool card for them. So again, Realm of the Gods is fantastic. Just like the others, it's just a one cost, draw card, get 10k. So they're the combo pieces, and then we get into the hard negates as well. So of course we're blue, so we have to play D Magic. Best negate probably in the game outside of Nimbus. It's a simple negate, untap 2, and you can use it for sparking as well. Flying Nimbus, again, fantastic card, and I think the reason why you play blue yellow at the moment. Obviously U7 Goku does really well, and it's also partly down to Nimbus as well, in my opinion, as well as all the combo it does. And if you think about it, Janemba's kind of doing the same principle. It does the Nimbus, say, on the first swing, and then it's going to be doing 10k pseudo combos to get out of the other swings. And then we got Max Power Kamihad. This is such a great card. I mean, I've only got it as a one-off because I used to run it as a two-off. And I think you can run it as a two-off as well. I mean, currently in this build, I have 51 cards. Max Power is a fantastic card because its activate main is fantastic because you can just pay one and remove a battle card that's greater than the current energy, and it sends it to their warp. But the key thing is it's a negate. So when you negate, you send 4 cards from your drop to your warp, and then you return Max Power back to your hand. Now you can only do that once per turn, but again, if we look at this logically, you Nimbus. Let's say you Max Power, or normally what I would do is Nimbus, then pseudo combo out of the next swing, and then Max Power the last one, or it depends on what was the biggest. Now, if you think about it, I've literally lost sod all cards. You'll see some other cards you can do with Nimbus as well, but Max Power comes back to my hand, pseudo combos replace themselves, and Nimbus is my only actual loss. But then that gets into my next card as well, which is Great Ape. So again, I can discard Great Ape for Flying Nimbus, and then pay 2 to draw the 2 cards I spend for Nimbus. So what the deck does really well is it blocks all these attacks while keeping a great hand. And that's the thing as well. And of course, lastly about the main deck is the Secret Rare, which is Vermilion Saiyans. I wouldn't choose any other Secret Rare. This is the best one for the deck. Obviously, if you can't afford this, Lineage is the second option. But But yeah, SS4 is the best one, and just remember, guys, if you are if you're targeting Z battle cards, you do not get the plus 5k effect, because for the plus 5 you need to actually send them to the warp. Obviously, you will pick Z battle cards sometimes, but just bear that in mind that for each color amongst you and your opponent in battle areas energy. So obviously, with me being a multicolored, that's blue, yellow sorted, and then if I'm against a black deck, for example, then that's 3 targets I can then pick. And then if they're all battle cards that go to the warp, that's then a 15k boost for the turn. So all of a sudden, my 30k, my leader's 30k, and I've got rid of 3 of your battle cards. So this is what I mean. This SCR is absolutely beast, and it ignores barrier as well. Before I get into the Z deck, do you have any questions that come to mind, Damien, about the main or anything you're not you think is an interesting
man, like, all clear. I'm just being silent. I'm letting you do your thing in this video, so just go.
Yeah, no, that's fine. And obviously I've played Janemba for such a long time. It is one of my favorite decks because it's an alternative win deck. But this is the main. When you stay in blue yellow, there's a couple of choices you can go for just before I go into the Z deck. Like there's stuff like Deadly Poison, which I have in my side deck. You can main deck one of those, but I think it depends on the meta. Like when Set 1 Freezer was around, because of Golden Cooler, I would main deck like a copy or 2. So what you'll do is Deadly Poison will definitely be a card that's in your side at least, but that's potential for main deck depending on the meta as well. There is other Janemba pieces, like AOD Janemba and Demon Sword. Generally speaking, they're too expensive. If you can get them off, sure. Especially the AOD one, because that's a mill 3. But that's 4 energy, and then it untaps 1. But the thing is, that's got no deflect as well. So, at least with Reality Bender, it's a 1-cost investment. If they do kill it on play or anything like that, you've only lost 1 energy, which is not a huge investment compared to Demon Sword at 4 or Agent at 4. But that's the main. Just talking about the Z deck here. So we'll start with one of the cards I play every single game, which is the Z Extra card, which is the Black Kamiha. Personally, I've only got 1 at the moment. You could definitely put that to 2. It's very rare I ever felt like I wanted a second, because you normally play this quite early, and then again, just like all the other cards, it's just 10. So you get rid of 1 Z, and it's 10k, and again you can bottom deck a 2 or less, so it's great against the Z battle cards, for example. Or for 1 blue, I can get rid of 3 Z energy, and you draw 1 and play a token blocker, which again you can combo away if you needed to. But it also gets you 15k. So as you can see, you're using your pseudo combos, putting them in your Z energy, and then play Black Kamiha, for example. Now you got 2 Beerus's and 2 cells. I think the numbers are fine there, because sometimes Beerus might get counterplayed, so having a second one is quite useful. Mostly have this for the idea of these Z battle cards are not to kill my opponent. It's to basically clear threats that are basically causing me to potentially die. So for example, with the Beerus, when I was against SS4 Bardock, I had to use it to bottom deck the 8-drops because they're too much of a threat at the time. But I've also used the activate main, for example, I was against Yellow U7, and he had the Son Goku Annihilator on the field. So again, I just paid 2 to bring it out, and then I awakened, and then paid 2 to bottom deck the Son Goku Awakening, so all my extra cards weren't getting taxed. So Beerus is used more as a removal for when I really need it. And the Sal is the same principle. Again, if they've established a board and they've got, like I've done it against Cooler, for example, in the past, they'll have 3 or 4 battle cards and they're all, 5 cost, and 20k doubles. Well, again, they establish a board. I just pay 3 to bring this out, and all that board's gone now. And then I just hide behind a Nimbus or D-Magic, and I'm safe for any retaliation. So again, these 2 battle cards are there again for defensive. If I can get a triple strike crit off, sure, I might do that. But ultimately, they're just used just as board wipes, basically. Now, the last 2 are definitely flex spots, and I'll tell you why they're in here anyway. So the 3-drop Goku, I thought this could be cute. I never played this, but I'm thinking if I ever play against a mirror match, it'll stop the leader swing for 1 turn. If I'm playing against a very tall deck, like Dark Brawley back in the day or something like that, maybe there's an interaction where the auto will work really well. Or if it's a leader-focused deck, like if I was concerned if Meki was going to triple attack me or something, and I was a bit worried or something. But ultimately, this is a card you could definitely drop and just add, say, 1 more Z extra, and I think the deck would be stronger. But since I don't own a second Z extra, I thought I want to try this, and you won't ever play against the mirror, but it's there just in case. And then the 5-drop, because normally, for anyone that doesn't know, normally Janemba cannot have cards in his deck that cost 5 or more. That's why you'll see no Oceanus or Hatch, unfortunately. All the good mill cards, unfortunately, Janemba can't pack them. However, the restriction on his permanent only affects his deck and not his Z deck. So this is why there's a 5-drop in the Z deck. Now, this is a here for when I'm playing against decks I can't mill out. So, for example, Hatch. Hatch has easy ways to keep recycling. AOD does to a degree. It has ways with the Android. I think it's the Android 13. I think it's the Hatch. I think they shuffle in and do things. If my memory is correct, it's been a little while since I played against them. So what I wanted to do was also have some ways of being able to actually kill them as a backup plan. So obviously, a triple strike, barrier blocker in the Z deck for 30k base is pretty good, and also the Unison works in the same manner as well. So that's why the 5-drops there. Again, I wouldn't drop it because I think it's there as a just in case. Because again, if you play against those decks, how are you going to kill them? And I think triple striking is the way you're going to be doing it. So that's the Z deck. Again, like I said, the only thing I would consider changing is the Goku and putting another Z extra in, but or maybe even dropping a Sal, but that doesn't really matter a great deal. That's more, I think, personal choice. Then lastly, the side deck. I will say, because I decided on Janemba about like 10 o'clock the night before the event, because I wasn't necessarily planning on going to the event as well. I was kind of iffing and ahhing. So my side deck, other than a few cards, I'll be honest, is not. I don't think it's very good, but it kind of might be. I didn't get the opportunity to really test my side out, but I'll tell you what it is, and I'll tell you which bits that I found useful. But just bear in mind, I ended up submitting this list about like 2 or 3 a.m. the day of the tournament. So I just kind of had to look at what I had with me. So the first thing is hand control has been Janemba's bane of existence ever since the dawn of time, ever since Slug back in, Slug deck was like set 3 or 4. I think it was 4. Back in those days, Janemba just dies to hand control. So I've had enough of hand control. So I just thought, 4 Deborahs, and then I don't need to worry about it. You could probably get away with 3, but hand control is such a pain, and you have so much room in the Z deck in the side deck, because your main deck is pretty much sorted. So I pack 4, but you could pack 3, and that would be fine. 2 Mifubas, fantastic card again. These 2 cards here, Mifuba and Deborah, I always sided these in. Well, I always used them. The rest of the cards I didn't use all day. But Mafuba, I sided in like against like U7 Goku, for example, because it's great for the 6-drop. And then again, against like Android 21, I used it against the 8-drop. And, it's great against secret rares and what have you. So for 2 energy, you put it on top of the battle card, and it basically sits there and does nothing for in a sense, that turn and then the turn after. So Mafuba, 100% include. I like it as a 2-off. I don't think I would change that. Jiren, just because you have to respect Turning the Tide, sadly. That card's still not banned. I'd like it to be, so you don't have to run Jiren. Turning the Tide doesn't work a great deal against Janemba, because chances are, I played against an Android 21 and I milled his Turning the Tide anyway. But a lot of the time, you just side this in against blue, and if they have it, they have it. So it's not the end of the world. As I said before, Deadly Poison, fantastic. It's a bloodlust. It is expensive. It is an expensive bloodlust. But again, in Janemba, you don't spend much energy on your turn. So you're going to be having 3 energy open to actually use this. And the other plus side is if your life's 3 or less, you even untap an energy as well, or blue or yellow, but in this deck you will. So it ends up then being a 2 cost in a sense. And basically the battle card is played in rest mode with skills negate. So again, if when I was playing against set 1 Freezer, you would use it to, blank the secret rare. Fantastic card, and that's why it's in there. 2 off is fine. You could go 3 if you wanted, but I think 2 is fine. Kami, I've always loved Kami in Janemba. I think it's worked wonderfuls when I've been playing mono, and it's just for the really super go wide deck. So I was thinking about it for Jiren. I didn't face any Jiren on the day, but I was wondering, okay, how do I deal with Jiren if I play against it? And I think Kami is one of them. It doesn't do anything against yellow because they got Sin. But this was my theory that if I'm against Jiren, I probably want Kami. And then the next 2 cards were a very late addition. So this was like a 3 a.m. kind of change. So we have the Vegeta Unison of Fury, which again we all know from yellow decks anyway. So, but like I like this kind of card against like Supreme Kai of Time, for example. Doing 6-drop dual attackers turn 1. This is a great card for that kind of matchup, for example. So this gets sided in, or would get sided in for those kind of games where turn 2 they're playing a 6-drop, but they're not just playing 1; they're playing a few, and they don't really have many like low drop units. So again, if you're against like Dark Broly back in the day, this is a fantastic card because Dark Broly's cards are all 6 or more. So again, this is just a great floodgate tool. I wouldn't use the -3. It would literally be there for the -1 effect. And again, you can just rest itself, so you don't need to worry about this. And then lastly, Unexpected Turn. So this is a card I also wanted to test against. Well, there's 2 decks in mind. So Jiren was one of them. But also as well, like SS4 Bardock, for example. I did side it in, but I never actually... Did I side it in? I think I did side it in, but I never actually used it once. So I don't actually know if Unexpected is good enough. And obviously there's a reason between why Unexpected versus Kami, and that depends on if I think they've got a counterplay to deal with Nami. So this will... If you want Nami and Unexpected, they're both very similar cards, and you'll just do it depending on what deck you're against and what cost their battle cards are. So, but again, like I said, I didn't really get a chance to test the side deck out a great deal, other than the first couple of cards, really. But yeah, that is Janemba. Would you like me to go over the matchups or anything, or?
Yeah, we can go briefly over the matchups.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. So it was a great day. It was 9 rounds all in total, but it was 6 rounds of Swiss, and then it was a top 8 cut. So in Swiss, I didn't go undefeated. I did lose to my friend Cameron, which is the only player I lost to all day. He was on Bardock, the SS4. So my first game was against U7 Goku. Yellow beat my opponents. Then I played against Cam on SS4 Bardock, lost to him. Then I played against, again, another U7 Yellow Goku, beat him. Then I played against Red Future Gohan, beat that deck. And then I played against Android 21, beat that. And then I played against U7, again, another Yellow U7 Goku, beat that. So that was my Swiss. So I finished Swiss at 5-1. And again, this is a great thing about Top Cut, right? Because if there was no Top Cut, that's it. My tournament run is done as soon as I've lost game 2. And then my top 8. So my first game was against the lovely man from Dice Cup, also the co-host when I'm not around as well. So it was the battle of the co-host casters.
Peter Dance on Janemba versus Joe Revel. Shout out to you, Joe, the only other green player. And Peter beat green, basically. Yeah.
It was a very good. It was. I would say it's the hardest game I had all day. And it's green cooler because, of course, my Nimbus and all that stuff does absolutely nothing. So the reasons why I picked blue yellow didn't matter. And of course, triple strike, dual attack, Unison is pretty strong. So max power was probably my MVP in that game. But yeah, stuff like Nimbus did, pretty much sod all. And so I just won that, and that was the one where I won with triple strike in time to get down to 1. But if he realized it could do that, then I think I would have lost. But regardless, here we are. And then I was against my teammate Gio, great guy, and he was on U7 Goku. Again, the yellow one. So I beat him, and then I played against Axel, another fantastic player, who we used to play a lot of finals against each other back in the day. And again, another Dice Cup person, which was on SS4 Bardock. And obviously I won him as well to win the event. So I ended, on 8-1, with only one loss to Cam in round 2, which is a shame, and that was very close. He had one card left in deck, and I passed my turn with I think 5 energy open or 6 energy open. So in hindsight, I should have just played the Bojack that just mills one. I should have just paid 3 energy and did that. But I was concerned because he had red energy open, so for counterplays and stuff. So I just thought I don't need to do that. I'm just gonna pass. And then he taps for the 10 drop, but he burns me 1 life because I only had 1 life left. And of course, because it's an order of the cards, the burn effect is before the drawing. So I think we talked about it after. He didn't have any counterplays. So yeah, literally, if I just paid 3 energy and milled him 1, then the outcome would have been different anyway. But you live and learn, eh?
Yeah. So there you go, guys. Peter Dance's first place. Janemba, before we conclude, Peter, do you have any shoutouts?
Always. Well, shout out to you, Damien, as always, for having me. And obviously, we cast all the time, so we talk all the time. And obviously, shout out to you for having me on your channel, as always. Mostly shout out to Ollie and Bradley, because without them, I wouldn't have gone to the event. I pretty much said to them, if you make it, because I wasn't going to go to the event, but literally on the Saturday morning, I think it was, I said, if you guys can make this as easy as possible. So they picked me up from my flat. I stayed with them. Basically, they made it so I didn't have to do anything. And so without them, I definitely wouldn't have gone. Shout out to Cameron, who you probably made me understand the SS4 Bardock in that short period of time, and he's a good friend, and everyone I played, like say Joe and my teammates, both obviously who was at the event, like Ollie and Gio, and obviously my teammates that weren't there. Oh, and obviously Bradley's my teammate as well. And then Axel and the rest of the TMB guys, because again they were in the top cuts and doing fantastically well as well. Shout out as always to my brother who always supports me, and everyone else that watches the channel. And I'm sorry if I forgot anyone, but I could be here all day thanking you all. So just know I love you all.
And we love you too, Peter. So there you go, guys. That's Peter's Janemba. Link is in the description. Congrats, Peter. And yeah, this has been Damien from the Lookout. This has been my co-host and the King of Invoker, Peter Dance. And we'll see all of you in the next video.
Janemba, Janemba.